Child, when I was a kid, going into my teens and then into my 20s, I used to look at some of the older aunties and be like, she don't see that mustache and the goatee. Like, she don't see that. And now I'm the auntie with the goatee and the mustache. Well, not the mustache, because, laser hair removal, got the mustache. But Lord, I'm the auntie with the facial hair. Oh, but today, we're going to talk about everything that you can do about facial hair and the lies that are often told. So we're going to start from the less expensive, the easier, the more convenient methods of hair removal, and then we're going to work our way up to things that are a little bit more expensive that require you seeing a pro. So we're going to start out with shaving. So yes, you could just shave your facial hair, and listen, it is 2025. It is high time that, some of you stop believing that when you shave your hair that it's gonna grow back thicker and faster. That is not true. And if you think it is true, I challenge you to try that with the hair that's on your head. Good. See if it comes back in thicker and faster. Now, you might feel that it is coming in quicker and faster, but let me tell you why you might be thinking that, and it's not actually coming in quicker or faster. So here's our diagram of skin, right? These are hair follicles that are showing up on the skin surface. However, that's not the only part of the hair. The hair follicle goes all the way down, like it starts from somewhere. They didn't put it on the diagram here, so I can't show you, but it starts from down below. When you shave, you are only shaving this top part here. So when the hair grows back, it only has to go up from this point here before you can see it on your skin. Other hair removal methods where you remove the hair follicle from lower down, of course, when the hair follicle grows back, it has more of a path to follow before you see it on the top of your skin. So when you shave, you only think it's growing back faster, but it just has a shorter journey to travel to where you can see it on your skin. And the hair is also not growing back in thicker. Why you might think that it is growing back in thicker when you shave is because you were cutting it at a blunt point. Now, if you will draw your attention here, you see how there are varied thickness here in the hair follicle, like it's thicker here and then it thins out here. So when you shave, you're cutting it at this thick part. So when it comes back in, it's at that thick point, so it feels thicker. However, if you were to remove the hair by any other method where you're removing it from the follicle, as you can see here, like this hair here was once down there. You see how much thinner that is? So of course, when the hair comes back in, when it grows back in, you're gonna feel this thinner part and not this thicker part. Does that make sense? We can get on the same page? So some of the pros when it comes to shaving, it's quick, it's easy, it's not very expensive, and it's pretty convenient. Like if you wind up in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, my facial hair's showing, you can run up in the drugstore, get you a little, something and handle that real quick. Now, if you're going to shave, you always want to use a new blade, because if you use something where the blade is kind of dull and it's not quite, doing its job, you can wind up nicking the skin. You can wind up getting irritated, and we already know that irritation leads to inflammation that can lead to hyperpigmentation. So the more you avoid irritating the skin, the more you avoid getting post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, dark spots. And there are many tools that you can use to shave your face. I, for many years, have used the Dermaflash. I think I probably started first using it somewhere around 2018 or 2019, something like that. I still use the Dermaflash to this day, and I like it. It's pricey, it is pretty pricey. You got to buy the device and then you have to buy the replacement blades. It can get pretty expensive, but I like it because in all the years that I've used it, and I've probably have been using it since maybe like 2018 or 2019, maybe even earlier than that, and I have yet to be cut. Like, it is almost impossible to cut yourself with that unless, like, I don't know, you were using it and your cat was hungry and wanted you to feed it, and your cat was underneath your feet, but you ain't see the cat, and then you walk and then you trip over the cat, and then, to avoid hurting the cat, you're like, oh my God. But at the same time, you still have the Dermaflash in your hand, and then you happen to trip and fall, and then like the Dermaflash like juts into your skin from the force of your fall, then maybe you would get cut by it. But like regularly just using it, I have yet to be cut by that thing. Now, the Dermaflash is an exfoliation tool. It's used to, get rid of peach fuzz and dead skin and, those kind of things that can, keep your face from, shining and whatnot. But I definitely use that mug for the There's also the Flawless Hair Trimmer, which I've tried and like. It's a device that has like these little blades around it and it goes zzz. That's also something that it's almost impossible to cut yourself with. I would assume the same scenario where, you know, your greedy cat is trying to get you to feed it and you're trying to avoid hurting the cat and you wind up hurting yourself, that if it juts you and jukes you in your face or something like that, then you probably get cut. But other than that, almost impossible for it to cut you. I will leave a link to the Dermaflash, the Flawless Hair Trimmer, and there's a number of other devices that I've tried before that I've liked that I'll also link in the description. Now you have to be careful with those dermaplaning devices. Not all of those are created equal, and I use my face as science to to find that out, because some of them can be a little jagged, and that is something that could irritate the skin. It can cause cuts, and you know, anytime you cut or scrape the skin, you open yourself up to the possibility of getting dark spots. So be careful out there. Sometimes it's worth spending a little coin up front, because if you try to be cheap in the beginning, you might wind up having to spend a lot more on the back end when you're trying to fix your skin. Now, some of the cons for shaving, well, you know, there are a population of people out there who are allergic to the material that a lot of these shavers are made out of. Some of them are made out of nickel, and people have nickel allergies. And if you're allergic to something and you have it on your skin, it can cause irritation, and you know, irritation, inflammation, hyperpigmentation. So be mindful of that. Also, with shaving, you probably do have to do it a little more often. There is the chance of getting ingrown hairs. One thing that I like to do is I like to use like a BHA liquid. For years I was using the Paula's Choice 2% BHA, but recently I wanted to place an order. I needed some extra things, and most of the stuff that I wanted was at Ulta, except for that one thing, and I was like, I don't want to just buy that one thing and have another package come in. So instead I got the Natorium 2% BHA. I don't have any thoughts on it yet. It's, you know, salicylic acid, and typically salicylic acid is salicylic acid depending on, you know, whatever else they formulate with it. So far so good, you know, no thoughts yet, but that's another option that's out there. But what salicylic acid can do, it goes deep into the pore. It can clear out some of the gunk that can, you know, dirt, oil, you know, so on and so forth, that can cause acne, but it's also good for clearing out ingrown hair. So it can go in there, clear out that ingrown hair. So that's an option. Just be mindful of when you use it. I would not use salicylic acid or any other type of acid, or I'd be really careful with skincare you use on your face directly after shaving it, because sometimes you do have small open areas that might have been cut, and you go and put some skincare there, it can cause you some mess, so be careful. I would wait a day, 2 days after shaving to put any kind of actives on the area that was shaved. By the way, did you know that we have a membership here on the channel? Yes, it is called the Skinsistency Club, where you and your fellow skincare enthusiasts can help each other. I mean, I'm involved too, clearly it's my membership, but you can cheer each other on, give each other tips for maintaining and being consistent with your skincare routine. You also get early access to videos that pop up on this channel, some exclusive videos as well, exclusive lives, a whole bunch of perks. Make sure you check out the join button below, or, you know, check out the description box for more information on joining our membership. Now, plucking. Plucking is quick and easy. You can do it almost anywhere. I know people who keep tweezers in their bag, and, you know, they just kind of start digging in and getting those hairs like in the car mirror and whatnot. Okay, so the pros with plucking, it's quick, it's inexpensive, it can be really convenient. However, it's some big cons when it comes to plucking, because what happens is, like with shaving and with other methods of hair removal, you know, with shaving, you just a little swipe, a little gentle swipe, a little delicate, demure, little swipe, right? Very, very, very gentle, very, you know, very cutesy. However, when you pluck, like, first of all, it's kind of hard to be delicate and gentle when you pluck, right? Because even when you're gentle while you pluck, you are still yanking the hair out of your skin. And that type of aggressive way that you're removing the hair can irritate, and like irritation, inflammation, hyperpigmentation, hello, right? So that is one thing that I've noticed with plucking, is that aggressively, you know, removing the hair in such an aggressive manner can lead to hyperpigmentation, and, you know, you have the situation where, you know, you have a bunch of the facial hair and then you have all of the hyperpigmentation underneath here, and that's why I personally be like, I don't advise you to pluck. Maybe an area like up here on your brows, there's a lot of bone in this area here. It's not as fleshy as this part. So if you're gonna pluck, just, and don't even pluck your eyebrows, because sometimes you go too far. Next, depilatory cream. And please make sure that you are using a depilatory cream that is made for the face, because the hair that you grow on your face is different than the hair that grows on your body. The hair on the body tends to be more coarse, so the formulation for a depilatory cream for the body might be a little more aggressive than what your face is looking for. Now, of course, some pros about depilatory creams: they're, very convenient, fast and easy. They're inexpensive. They're not as inexpensive as, say, like Plucking or some methods of shaving, but it's still relatively inexpensive. You can get some Nair cream, facial cream for like, $6-7, what have you. Actually, depilatory creams might be a little bit cheaper than shaving, depending on the type of blade you get, because some of these blades can be really expensive. But obviously, a big con when it comes to depilatory creams is if you are sensitive or allergic to the formulation, that can irritate your skin. Irritation, inflammation, hyperpigmentation, you get the point here. Also, with the depilatory cream, I would be very careful about what other actives you use after it. As a matter of fact, I probably wouldn't use any actives in the area that you use the depilatory cream for about a day or two after, because you don't want to cause additional irritation and inflammation and whatnot. Now, waxing. I personally do not recommend you doing at-home waxing for your facial hair, because it's like akin to the plucking. It's like there's like, it's not delicate, it's not demure, it's not cutesy. It's a quite aggressive way to remove your facial hair that can lead to irritation, inflammation, and hyperpigmentation. Now, here's a game to play with this video. You take a shot every time I say irritation, inflammation, actually don't do that because you'll be drunk. So I don't advise at-home waxing, but if you wax with a professional, which I believe a lot of people who have PCOS and who have hirsutism will opt for. Now, that's a whole different situation, because a wax professional, it's still an aggressive way of removing your facial hair, but you're with a pro who should know what they are doing, so make sure that the person is well vetted. Now, obviously, waxing with a pro can be way more expensive than buying like a little $8-9 at-home waxing kit in the drugstore, but a good pro is gonna know what they're doing. You at home, maybe not so much. Now, the next level is a prescription cream. And obviously, when you hear prescription cream, you need to see a doctor in order to obtain it, right? So there's a prescription cream called eflornithine, which had a previous life as a prescription or a pill that you would take orally called Vanica or Vanica? I don't know how to pronounce it. But, the thing with the pill was that the ingredients that they used to make it became very, very expensive, and it wasn't like, marketable, blah, 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 blah. So now they have this eflornithine cream. I have used the eflornithine cream. I have to admit that for some reason, I just couldn't get really consistent with it. As a matter of fact, I stopped getting the prescription. I stopped refilling it for quite a while. It's got to be like 6 to 9 months, maybe more, since I last got the prescription. The prescription cream contains active ingredients in it that is going to help to halt the hair growth in the facial area. Now, the thing is, it is going to take time and you have to be consistent. So you might finish a whole bottle of this prescription cream and, you might need to do a refill before you start seeing results. Me, I can't really say like yay or nay because I wasn't really consistent with it. Now, the con here, there could be other cons. I just don't have any personal experience with, it working or not working because, that was inconsistent. But a big con here is the price tag. Now, my insurance did not cover it. You might have insurance that may cover it. But without insurance, this is costing about $95 for this prescription. And I would say that you can get maybe about 2 months worth out of one container. Which, if you break it down per month, it's not the worst thing in the world, because it's maybe $45, $46 a month, which isn't too bad. But obviously a $95 prescription cream is way more than like a $7 or $9 Nair facial cream that you get over the counter. Now, we are coming up to the higher tiers here, and we are at laser hair removal. Now, yes, black people can get laser hair removal. The thing is, you need two very important things in order for this to work. Number one, you have to have the right laser. And the right lasers for us are either diode or ND-YAG. Now, you don't have to go remembering the name of it or whatever, because number two, you need to have the right person who knows how to use those machines, those lasers on you. You can't have one without the other. And the thing is, where I was like, you ain't gotta go be memorizing the name of the laser and, learn how to use it and whatever and all that other extra stuff, is that I would think that the most important thing would be to have the person who knows how to use it. So you want to, I cannot stress enough how important it is to find someone who has receipts, that they know what they're doing when it comes to skin of color, especially with these lasers, right? They don't have to be of color to know what to do with color. There are a lot of non-people of color pros who know what they are doing, but you have got to do your research, because otherwise these people will burn you. I too have been burned by someone who should have known better. Years ago, I had a white dermatologist reach out to me because they saw that I had written on my blog that I wanted to do laser hair removal. They invited me in, and that bitch burned me. And the thing is, back then, this is maybe 10 years ago, back then I knew enough to ask her if she had, the laser for the blacks. And they was like, yeah, we got the laser for the blacks. I mean, they didn't say it like that. And I ain't say it like that. But they was like, yeah, we have the laser. And she ain't have the skill. So you have to have the laser and the skill combined. So laser hair removal, right? Because sometimes people get this wrong. It is the permanent reduction of hair growth, not permanent removal of hair growth, permanent reduction of the hair growth cycle. So the hair cycle is permanently reduced, which can mean for some people, you may never see them hairs again. Hallelujah. For some people, it grows in much slower and slower and slower, to the point where even if some hairs come back, it's like who cares about that little hair, But and then for some people, laser hair removal doesn't work at all. And for some people, there's a population of people where laser hair removal actually stimulates more hair growth. So do your researches. I got laser hair removal on my mustache, on my upper lip, my chin, my jaw, and my chest, as well as my underarms and my bikini area. The facial laser hair removal I got from a dermatologist. The rest I got from laser away. So the way laser hair removal works, it zaps the hair follicle and kind of slows down the hair growth process. And this ain't gonna happen in just one session. It's not even gonna happen in just 6 sessions. Typically, you will need 10 to 12 sessions for each area. And then sometimes you might need to go back in for maintenance. Like after you finish with your 10 to 12 sessions, you might have to go back in a year later, 6 months later, 2 years later, 5 years later, get your little maintenance, boom, and then you're good, right? Some people, everybody's different. And it can take some time because these sessions need to be spaced out. Typically, you got to space them out. I think it's somewhere like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that in between each session. So as you can imagine, if you need 10 to 12 sessions, it can take over a year for you to be able to, be done with, your laser hair removal. So for me, I rarely, if ever, see any hairs pop up on my upper lip. So I'm like, that laser hair removal worked amazingly for my upper lip area. Then my jaw area, at first, I was like, oh shoot, within the first 1 to 2 sessions, I was like, oh shoot, I ain't seeing the hair come in, blah, 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 I'm da-da-da-da-da. But I don't know what happened. So I even got my hormones checked. I don't have PCOS. There's nothing abnormal that came up in anything. And I just gotta maybe chalk it up to, I don't know, my hairs was like, hell no, we won't go. So what I'm gonna do is, for the remaining stragglers that come up on my jaw area, I'm gonna do electrolysis, which we'll get into in a few seconds here. So some of the pros of laser hair removal, believe it or not, even though I said it can take like 2 years, the actual sessions themselves are pretty quick. So when I would go in for my chest, my underarms, and my bikini area, I was in and out of that session in like 15 minutes tops, right? The pain tolerance is different for everyone. I'm not gonna say that it didn't hurt at all. There were some places where, it was a little spicy. I went to laser away, so they have this like cooling thing that they use while they're, doing the laser, that helps tremendously. And then when there's areas where I guess there's not that much like, it's not that What am I trying to say? You know, like areas that are not as fleshy, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term. Those areas where mostly like where like the bone is just like right there, you know, those areas I was like, ouch, 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 ouch. But it goes by so quick that it's like, you know, it happens, it's like, ouch, but then, you know, they move on, it's quick. I would say for me that waxing, although after, you know, getting my waxes done after a while, it doesn't hurt as much, but laser hair removal was less painful for me than waxing. But again, everybody's pain tolerance is different. If you go and get laser hair removal from a medical professional, they're able to actually use numbing cream because, you know, you need a prescription to use these numbing creams. Numbing cream definitely helps. I definitely had the numbing cream for the facial area that helps tremendously. But like I said, I did the bikini underarms and chest area without any numbing cream, and you know, here I am living. So one of the cons of laser hair removal, I would definitely say, has got to be the price, because it can get pretty expensive. Per session, it's not so bad, but then you remember when you realize that like, damn, I need 10 to 12 of these sessions and then I might need maintenance afterwards. That is definitely a con. Now, how much does it cost? Now, that's the thing. Prices can vary a lot. It depends on where you live. So pricing might be more expensive here in New York City than it is in, like, say, you know, somewhere in Alabama. Even within New York City, like I live in Queens, places in Queens might be cheaper than places that are 20 minutes away in Manhattan, because you know Manhattan rent be kind of high. So I would say on average, and this is just an estimate, again, you know, best way to find out pricing is to have a consultation with someone near you, but on average per session for the face, it can be, you know, $139 to $200 per session. I would say it's even more expensive than that if you go to a dermatologist. Dermatologist, I would say it can range from $250 to $500 per session. A lot of places offer packages, so if you buy 10 packages at once, they may give you a discounted price, as opposed to like if you kind of pay as you go, it might cost you a lot more. So, you know, look into that. But this is not something where you want to shop first for price. You want to shop first for the expertise and then kind of look at pricing. Because like I said, not everybody should be anywhere near our skin. And you might wind up with someone who's using the wrong machine, or someone who's using the right machine, but it's the wrong person using the machine, you know? Oh, one thing I forgot to say is a con. Not everybody can get laser hair removal. You know, there's certain populations that, like, if your hair is very, very light, it might be harder for the laser to pick it up. But that still remains that if you have dark hair, dark skin, you know, you are someone of color, you can still get laser hair removal. It just has to be the right person using the right machine. Which brings us to electrolysis. So laser hair removal permanently reduces the hair growth cycle, while electrolysis permanently removes the hair. Now, the thing is, as great as that sounds, it's taking out the hair one at a time. So you gotta be real patient as they take out the hairs one at a time. So it uses an electric current that zaps the hair, that kind of like, for lack of a better term, kind of like kills the hair so that it doesn't regrow. The pros of electrolysis, of course, is that almost everybody can get electrolysis. If your hair is gray, you can get electrolysis. If you have very light, like blonde hair, you can get electrolysis. So many people can get electrolysis. The biggest con, though, is in the time that it takes. So if you have a larger area to remove hair, it might make more sense to get laser hair removal for the larger areas and then maybe save the electrolysis for the smaller areas. But I have heard where people get electrolysis for, you know, areas like their legs, their arms, underarms, bikini area. And you know, everybody's different. If you have the time and the patience for that, go and let have. Now, electrolysis does tend to be cheaper per session than laser hair removal. Of course, you know, prices are going to vary, you know, based on where you live and who you go to and yada, yada, yada. So an estimated range can be anywhere from $35 to $80 or more per session. It's estimated that you'd need maybe 8 to 12 sessions. And I'm talking for the face, you might need way more sessions, and it might be way more expensive for other areas of the body. And also with electrolysis, you really have to make sure that the person that you go to, it's for all skin types and all skin tones. However, you have to please do your research, because you can even get messed up by someone not doing your electrolysis properly. I've heard it, I've seen it, and it's a thing. So make sure you do your research. I'm going to do electrolysis because I'm so tired. Like my facial hairs is kind of like the evil villain at the end of a movie. You think you killed the evil villain. You're like, all right, they gone. Boom, they dead. But then they come back again. That's how I feel like my jawline and my chin hairs have been, over the years. So I'm gonna get laser hair. I'm not laser hair. I'm gonna get electrolysis for, the remaining hairs that are still there after the laser hair removal. Hear ye, I hereby interrupt this video with this video because I now have firsthand experience to tell you about what it is like getting electrolysis. Well, what it's like for me. I am literally 15 minutes, about 15, 20 minutes out of my appointment. I would have came and talked to y'all sooner, but me and the electrologist were chopping it up. Turns out we some New Yorkers, anyway, y'all ain't here for all of that. So here is my experience. I didn't think that it hurt. I felt like you feel like the little electric jolts, like the little pulses in your skin. I'm trying to think of what I can compare it to. Can't think of anything that I can compare it to. It's kind of like, to me it felt similar to the like pulses that you get when you get laser hair removal, except these weren't as intense as those pulses. So if you've had laser hair removal before, it's similar to that. So basically what they do, they zap you with this and then they take a tweezers to remove the hair out of the follicle. So I was told that I am like a A+ electrolysis student because I don't pluck and I don't wax because, and I know we mentioned waxing earlier on, but if you're really serious about electrolysis, maybe you'll cut back on the waxing and the tweezing. I do not recommend tweezing whatsoever. So she said that my follicles were, like, the hair was easy to come out because my follicles are, I can't remember the word that she used, but let's just paraphrase in that she said that my follicles are exceptional. They're amazing because when you pluck and when you wax, the hair is kind of being violently ripped out of your skin. So when you have a lot of that, it might hurt a little bit more. Now, that's not to say rule it out, never get electrolysis if you've previously waxed or have tweezed your hair before. It's just to say that, maybe maybe if my pain was this, yours might be this. Okay, then everybody's pain tolerance is different. Plus I had numbing cream on. Now, another thing to understand, there's different session times. So she started with the 15 and she was like, how do you feel? And I was like, we can go another 15. And to be honest with you, after we did 30 minutes, I probably could have gone up to 45 minutes, but my attention span was like, oh no, we got to do something else. So I think 30 minutes was good. I could, if I had something to do, maybe I would have been able to go up to 45 minutes, although we did have a really good conversation flowing. Another thing to understand is that the hair follicles have different growth cycle. Now, the best analogy that I could think of for this so that you could kind of understand is that, say there's family members in different generations on your face. So you've got baby cousins, you got your teenage cousins, you got your mama and your daddy, you got your older uncle and aunties, you got your grandma, maybe you got your great grandma all up and through on your face. Okay, now if you remove great grandma from your face, that's a little bit different in a life cycle than if you remove the baby cousin, because then the baby cousin might still baby cousin's still gonna be thriving and flourishing. So when you get electrolysis and you're getting the hair cleared, there is a chance that you will still see hair, but it might be a different follicle. So say they move the follicle from this point, right here, and then you had a follicle that was in a different growth cycle that was less than a millimeter away from that. You might see a hair there because that hair is not this hair. You picking up what I'm putting down? So wanted to come in, give you a little bit of firsthand information. This is just my first session. I'm anywhere near done. It's hard to tell how many sessions I'm gonna need because it really depends on the growth cycle of the hair follicles, how long I do, how many sessions, all of that stuff is unknown at this point, but just wanted to come in and give you a little bit of firsthand information. Now, the thing is with removing hair, the more you remove the hair, the more that you shave, the more that you pluck, the more that you wax, yada yada, the more susceptible you are to getting dark spots, because the more you remove the hair, the more you are opening yourself up to things like ingrown hairs and irritation that could wind up leading to hyperpigmentation. I'm not saying you will definitely get dark spots, I'm just saying it increases your chances. So what do you do to clear the dark spots? I'm talking about that in this video here. We're talking about all of the levels when it comes to dark spots, because not all dark spots are the same and they all can't be treated the same. So if you have been chasing, dark spot treatments that you get from Sephora and Ulta and CVS and Walgreens and whoever, and you're feeling like you're not getting results, you especially need to check out this video. Click on it here and I will see you there.